Message from Mira from the Pleiadian High Council, Divine Intervention. Greetings, I am Mira from the Pleiadian High Council. I greet you today with love and surprisingly good news. I am sure you could use some of this right now, because you have been going through a lot. As you may already know, I am also a full-time participant with the Earth Council, which oversees the planet. From our vantage point, you will see the divine plan is being fulfilled. Many pockets of darkness have already been removed from the earth, along with the beings who are absent of light. Those who have been getting away with too much for too long will be thwarted from their old behaviors. Their hands are being tied, and their methodologies have been disrupted. This will continue until nothing they are intending to do will work anymore. They are being relieved of their duties, and are being sent elsewhere. They will go where they deserve to be, which is no longer on the earth. I would like you to take a deep breath and feel the freedom that is coming. It belongs to you and it belongs to the earth. Some of you are starting to feel more relaxed sensations as your eyes into the higher realms of consciousness. In the higher dimensions you will not be subject to any of the old interference that prevented you from enjoying your lives. The earth is surrounded and by the realms of light. Your galactic friends, the angelics, the masters, including the white hats, who are responsible for taking the earth back. This plan was made many years ago, and is the impetus for why our ground crew have come to the earth at this time. This divine intervention has been kept a secret. Only a few are privy to these plans, which have had to be changed many times. They are coming to fruition soon, and everything that has been promised will occur. You will have your freedom, you will live in abundance, joy, light, love, beauty, health, and well-being. You will be in loving relationships with your beloveds. Only your heart knows what this means. It is happening because of the Creator's intention that you will live in the oneness and unity from which you came. We are delighted and pleased to congratulate you for being the light anchor points on the earth at this time, and for so many other incarnations for many of you. We know you have paid your dues and that you are deserving of all of that has been promised. Please relax, and know that all is well. I am Mira, and please remember how much we love you, and how much gratitude we have for you. Thank you. A message from the vastness of being, winds of change. Winds of change are sweeping through all social structures everywhere. It may seem bad, but it is just difficult at times to navigate. To go with the flow that is so erratic. Go with the stillness in your heart. Maintain that focus on the center in your heart. That is what will help you to navigate the churning energies that are spinning to break down, break apart old structures of thoughts, beliefs, and patterns. This expands out into the world, into the lives of all on earth. Focusing on love will get you through. Bring your heart into a loving vibration. If it is difficult, feel what you're feeling. If you want to shift it, ask your guides, animal spirits, angels, to assist you in finding that love connection, and be patient with yourself. Ask to connect to the crystalline grid that surrounds the earth and is amplified by all of humanity who focus on love. Connect to this grid, send love into it, and you will amplify the love within you. You are all feeding love into this powerful grid of energy, and this is part of the creation of the new earth. The creation of a new humanity that thrives on love and shares love with one another. Humanity is in the opportunity to bring love forth on this planet. This can be your focus, especially when events in the world are, or seem to be, pointing in the direction of fear and hatred. Especially now in the chaos of change. Instead of focusing on the events that you are shown on news feeds, focus on bringing love into your hearts and sending it into the world. Be love. Practice kindness in all your interactions. Your energetic input is crucial to the growth and strengthening of love in the crystalline grid. Feed this grid with love and you connect to all the other human beings who are doing the same, and you will feel the amplification of the love within you, and it will grow and expand, eventually diffusing fear and hatred. Tunia, the dead children trauma. My dearest brothers and sisters, this is Tunia speaking. I love you so very much. Consider a man who says that he wants to be rich, no matter the cost, or no matter what he has to do for it. Is this man actually being motivated by a desire towards wealth? Or is he being motivated by a movement away from fear, and a movement away from feeling unseen, away from feeling unloved, and feeling empty, and without purpose? People are often motivated not by their desire to go towards something, but are instead motivated by their desire to move away from something. And that something is often unresolved, and possibly even unconscious fear or pain. So, in today's message I will argue that a number of women, and also some men, are sometimes acting the way they do because of a movement away from an unresolved and possibly unconscious trauma. The person may have been traumatized in her current life, or in a past life. This trauma is that far too many children on Earth have died, and still are dying to this day. Before we proceed, in this message, I will be discussing dead children and rape. So please only continue with this message, if you are okay with those topics. So, let's get to it. My starting point will be obvious. Having your child die is incredibly painful. So painful, in fact, that the pain of a dead child can linger into a person's next life, whereas people themselves dying is a pain that usually doesn't linger into a person's next life. As a result, not everyone, but a substantial amount of people carry around a, possibly subconscious, trauma around dead children. Meanwhile, not many people carry around a trauma about themselves dying. The next point I want to make is, being raped is absolutely awful in several ways. And one of the ways in which it is awful is that historically there was a chance that being raped could eventually lead to a dead child. After all, the rapist's father isn't likely to stick around and protect and provide, which historically often meant a dead child. Plus, if she's raped, the woman doesn't have the chance to select a partner with high quality and compatible genes, which is done subconsciously through attraction, which means that her child is again more likely to die. So, certainly not the only, but one of the reasons why lots of women are so terrified of being raped is that historically a rape could lead to a dead child. And as we've established, the fear of a dead child is an incredibly strong fear, one that can linger across lifetimes. Some people might think that I'm being too theoretical here, and say that rape is simply awful, because it's psychologically devastating. I absolutely agree that rape is awful, because it's psychologically devastating. And I'm saying that one of the not the only, but one of the reasons why it's psychologically devastating is that historically being raped could later lead to having a dead child. Another reason why being raped is awful is that it can be violent, and can even lead to the woman's death. Yet, while that absolutely is another way in which being raped is awful, I don't think that typically weighs as heavily as the fear of dead children. In the subconscious of the average woman, of course, women are different. This is because, as we said, people have more inter-lifetime trauma around dead children than around their own deaths. To illustrate that, let's turn to a recent online debate, where women were asked, would you rather meet a bear in the forest, or would you rather meet a man in the forest? Now, logically speaking, the answer is that meeting a man is safer. After all, women come across let's say 100,000 men in their lives, and if they came across 100,000 bears they would almost certainly get eaten alive. Therefore one bear is more dangerous than one man. Now, it's true that overall, women are more likely to get raped or murdered by a man than she is likely to get eaten by a bear, but that's just because most women encounter huge amounts of men in their lives, and encounter either zero, or a very few bears. The question wasn't whether a woman is more likely to get raped or murdered by a man than eaten by a bear in her life. The question was whether she would rather come face to face with one bear, or one man in the forest. And one bear is clearly more dangerous than one man. Some people have a Disney view of bears, or think that if you just know one or two simple tricks then you can survive any bear encounter. But the reality is that wild animals are unpredictable. Timothy Treadwell was a bear enthusiast and founder of a bear protection organization, so he knew bears well, and he and his girlfriend got eaten by bears. Note that bears often pin down their victims and start eating them while they're still alive. It's a slow and torturous way to die. So the rational answer is that it's safer to meet a man than a bear. Yet, a number of, not all, women answered that they would rather me to bear. What is going on? Well, as we discussed, the visceral fear of a dead child is often emotionally stronger than the fear of the person themselves being the victim of violence or murder. I think that's a big part of you have a number of, not all, women effectively saying that they prefer a higher chance of being eaten alive over a smaller chance of being raped, which in turn might lead to a dead child. Those women answering that they'd rather me to bear aren't usually thinking in such ways, but that's how it goes with emotional processes. First a choice gets made for emotional reasons, and then the rational mind is used to come up with a good-sounding justification for the choice. It's like how a person chasing wealth at all costs isn't consciously thinking that they're being motivated by feeling unloved, even if that's the thing driving their actions. So, I think the bear versus man debate points to the fear of dead children being active in a lot of people. And after all, why wouldn't this fear be active? Unfortunately, and this hurts my heart, every day many children are kidnapped on Earth, more than official statistics indicate. And these children may be raped or tortured or sacrificed, or their bodies are used as a resource for various kinds of products. And Earth humans, being psychic, deep down know this. So of course many Earth humans are anxious about dead children. Why wouldn't you be? In fact, because children are still being kidnapped every day, this is more of an ongoing trauma than a past trauma. But because people don't know that it's mostly the dark controllers who are behind it, this can manifest as hostility to, men. Because the tiny part of the population who kidnaps and rapes children are indeed mostly men. Even though the vast majority of men never do this. So on a subconscious, fear-based level, average men are seen as potential rapists, which means potentially dead children. And average men are seen as potential child kidnappers, which again means potentially dead children. And average men are seen as people who at the very least are failing to stop rape, and stop kidnapping, and hence stop children from dying. And, I get it. In my society people don't get raped and children don't get kidnapped. But if the amount of rapes and kidnapping in my society was as large as it was on Earth, you can bet that us Pleiadian women, as a group, would sit our men down and tell them, you are the protectors of society. This is unacceptable. We expect you, and need you to completely fix this problem of rape and child kidnapping. But then again, us Pleiadian women also see ourselves as the ones responsible for showing love and appreciation, and giving help, and active emotional support to men, including average men, including unlikable men, including men who aren't our friends or family, including men to whom Earth people would say we have no responsibility. And in a situation like the one on Earth, us Pleiadian women would be actively protesting to end anti-male discrimination. Still, on Earth there are so many rapes and child kidnappings, and the public doesn't know that the dark controllers are responsible for most kidnappings, and so men get blamed. In that situation, I can see some women turning hostile, or at least cold or callous towards average men. This is not a good thing. It's not fair to men. The average Joe never rapes or kidnaps anyone. How is he supposed to end rape and kidnapping on a world with a population of many billions of people? But I do get the anti-male hostility. This is one of the reasons why society is currently blatantly discriminating against men, yet few women are speaking out or are protesting to change that. Let's look at two quotes. Aloysia Numba said, "The genocide in Rwanda is a far-reaching tragedy that has taken a particularly hard toll on women. They now comprise 70% of the population, since the genocide chiefly exterminated the male population. This is of course insane, because if mostly men get murdered, then aren't men the primary victims? Certainly if mostly women would have gotten murdered, then people would be furious if anyone suggested that men were the primary victims. So then, why does a woman say that women are the primary victims, when she herself also says that it's primarily men that got murdered?" Well, similarly, Hillary Clinton said, "Women have always been the primary victims of war. Women lose their husbands, their fathers, their sons in combat. Why do a very, very few women say these things? Well, Look at the last 4 words of that Hillary quote, "Women lose their sons in combat." This is the dead children trauma poking its head through. That is why you have Hillary Clinton saying that women are the primary victims of war. It's a statement that is incredibly callous towards men, and it is also a statement of unresolved dead children trauma. As the final part of this message, let me mention some effects that the dead child trauma can have on some people. The dead children trauma can reduce the desire of people to start families. Now, obviously I'm not saying that the dead children trauma is the only reason why people might not start a family. For example, economic reasons are a huge one as well, but it's one reason. The dead children trauma can lead to people having sexual issues, or being less interested in sex, because without sex, you don't have a child, and hence it can't die. The dead children trauma can nudge women to have a preference for tall, confident, in shape, possibly non-crying, possibly aggressive, possibly violent, possibly psychopathic, possibly criminal men. Because that's the kind of guy who comes out on top in a knife fight to the death to protect their child against some predator. Indeed, serial killers have women lining up to date them. Some women feel less safe if they're with a man who says or displays that he has deep and long-lasting emotional pain, and some women feel safer when they are with more aggressive and more violent men. It doesn't make sense to feel safer with more violent men until you realize that violent men are more likely to be able to fight off predators that might threaten their child. This reduces the fear of dead children. The dead children trauma can nudge women to be really picky, because the better genes her partner has, i.e. the more attractive he is, and the better of a protector and provider he is, the less likely their child is to die. The dead children trauma can nudge women to want to become more masculine or more powerful, such as being a female CEO. Or it can nudge women to want to see movies where tiny women beat up highly trained men 3 times her size in hand-to-hand combat. Feeling more powerful in this way can mitigate this fear of dead children. When women say they want a man with a particular trait, what the woman sometimes means is that she wants a man who has a certain level of attractiveness and income, and ideally he has that trait as well. This frustrates men to no end who genuinely have that trait, but don't have the required level of attractiveness or income, and in some cases, the unspoken attractiveness requirement is so steep that it eliminates most men. I completely get why this frustrates men, and in an ideal world there would be clearer communication. On the other hand, I also get the female unconscious thought pattern of, if you have that trait I want, but you don't show the genetic quality or income to ensure that our child will survive, then sorry, but no relationship is going to happen. I don't want a dead child. If a woman is asked out by a man she considers unattractive, sometimes she has a kind of slight disgust reaction. This can be the dead child trauma poking its way through, because again, being with unattractive men might lead to dead babies. But of course, if a man asks a woman out and sees that she has an reaction to that, and potentially even rejects him harshly, then that can really hurt the man. He didn't actually do anything wrong, he just asked a woman out. This can discourage the man from approaching women in the future. Which, unfortunately, I also get. People say the worst thing she can say is no when you ask her out, but actually, she can have a disgust reaction which might really hurt the man emotionally. And I know that men don't like to admit or even consciously realize that some things hurt them emotionally, but men absolutely do get hurt emotionally. Now, to be clear, women are different, and not all women have this dead children trauma, or are affected by it in all the ways I described. This dead children trauma also obviously isn't the only factor that influences the behavior of women. Also, a woman with fewer dating options may label fewer men as being unattractive than a woman with more dating options would. Different women also rate men differently. Furthermore, people can of course increase their level of attractiveness in various ways. And yes, there's plenty that could be said about male behavior too. In my mind, neither the average man nor the average woman is to blame for the dysfunction in modern Earth relationships, and for the disrupted dating scene. Most people are non-evil and are just trying to navigate life, and move towards comfort, and move away from fears and pain. painful and potentially unfair seeming situations can be caused just by people making unconscious choices, even if no one is being intentionally malicious. Most of Earth's problems would be solved if people had a higher level of consciousness, and if people cared more about their own psychological development and healing. So Earth's situation would be helped if people observed more, if people did their internal and possibly external work, and if people communicated more clearly with one another. My beautiful sisters, I am so sorry that so many of your children have died during your lifetimes on Earth. And I'm so sorry about all the sexual violence and child kidnapping on Earth. It's heartbreaking and absolutely awful. I hope that soon Earth will move to a situation where that is a thing of the past. It is my sincere hope that this message has pointed out something previously unseen, and that healing can occur because of this. After all, observation is the first step. And what you're feeling? You're healing so long as you don't suppress it, judge it, or immediately try to change it. And to my amazing Earth brothers, yes, I know that many of you also carry around this trauma, and unfortunately many other traumas or pain besides. You are very much in my thoughts also, and I love you very much. My beautiful Earth brothers and sisters, I'm so sorry that Earth is so dark and harsh. Hopefully things will be cleaned up and made safer, and hopefully we will meet in the not-too-distant future. I love you so very much. Your star sister, Tunia. SorceryOfLight.com. The other videos are in the English video playlist. Help me spread the light. Click like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.